See, you see a girl who forgot a lyric. I see a woman so brilliant, her mind is filled with genius. You see a girl who has riches, I see a woman in pain. You see a man digging ditches, he sees a man gone insane. I see a suit stealing millions, you see a smart businessman. She's a mom feeding her children, you see a thief stealing cans. What do you see? And more importantly, for our talk today, why do you see what you see? There's a reason. There's a reason why this world seems to be in opposition to one another. There's a reason why people see one thing and the exact same thing looks diametrically opposed to what this person sees. There's a reason for that. It's called the individualization of God. All of that individualization sitting here in this room, individually playing themselves out upon this planet. You get to decide. You get to use your mind any way you want, and thereby using your mind in a way that may put you in opposition to someone else. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with the multitude of opinions that are on this planet right now. However, in order for those opinions to get along, we must respect everyone's right to have an opinion about whatever they decide to have an opinion about. So, why do you see what you see? Who are you? That's really the question we ask ourselves all the time. Who am I? Who are you, and why are you who you are? So, why do you see what you see, but why are you the person you are sitting here today? Every one of us has a history. We all know how we got here, but do we really know how we got here? I can give you a list of all the things that got me here. Linda Rojo got me here. What got you here in the vibration you are living at? What is it that brought you to a mindset that you are sitting with today? What created the already established premises of your life? What created your core beliefs? Your core beliefs is what makes you see the world the way you see it, and thus have the opinions you have. You believe this because, or rather, you think this because you believe this. You believe what you believe, then you think the thoughts you think, you feel based on what you're thinking, and then you let out your emotions. That's how that whole thing works. So the question is, who are you and how did you get here? So this year our theme is discovery. And I love this, Barbara. This is a great. Do you have another one for me too? No, that's it. Yeah. The title of my talk today is What Do You See? So this year is discovery and this month is focus. So as you all know, I just came back from Paris and I want to be honest, I wasn't really excited to go. It may sound silly, but everybody was excited to go in our group, but I wasn't really that excited to go because my emotional state has not really wanted me to leave my house much. I like being around all things Nora in my life. And so it's hard to go that far away from it. That's what I was feeling. But I knew, since this year is the year of discovery, I had to do the very thing I didn't want to do in order to discover what I could discover. And I couldn't discover it by staying home. Plus, I would have had to get a new husband. Because he was not having it, that I was like, because I even said, I'm not sure. He went, don't want to hear it? You're going. And sometimes you need that kind of love in your life. So the first night we got there, we took an all-night flight. First night we got there, we didn't plan on doing it, but somehow we ended up in the Louvre at night. It was open till 10:30, and we were walking by, having had dinner, and Kevin said, why don't we go to the Louvre tonight? It'll be less people. I was like, is it even open? So we ended up in the Louvre the first night. We went to the Louvre 9 years ago, Kevin and I, and then we went again. I wasn't the same person seeing what I was seeing this time. So much has changed. And it made me think. I thought to myself, how often do we really access and take account for who we've become over a period of time? Now, I feel like I've changed drastically since November. I feel like so much has changed and shifted for me. That happens sometimes when experiences come upon you that you're not prepared for or ready for. But when I really look back over those 9 years, I think about my spiritual journey and what took me to where I was standing at the Louvre last week. I think it was Friday night. So we went around and we looked at all the statues, but every time I saw something beautiful, I welled up in tears. And I was like, is this just because everything's beautiful? And I understood, no, it's not just that it's all beautiful. It was beautiful 9 years ago. Now, 9 years ago when I went to Paris, I was 1 year out from having just come through stage 4 cancer. And I was seeing it through the eyes of someone who was so grateful to have not survived, because I never questioned that, but so grateful to be in my body and seeing what I was seeing and so excited to be healthy and vibrant. This time I was looking at it I saw this beautiful sign on a bus when we were in the cab on the way home, on the way to Paris from the airport. And it said something about, I'm brokenhearted, but not broken. And it was some quote, and I went, that's an odd thing for someone to be putting on a bus. And I was like, or was it put on that bus to land right where it landed so that I could drive by it and hear what I needed to hear? And it was, because I figured that everything is for me. Don't you feel that way? Yeah, good. Thank you. You all feel it's for me, right? Okay. So what I realized was that everything I was going to see last week was all messages from the universe, from my universal, or Abraham, whoever's talking to me. Everything coming through me to let me know life is good. So we had a beautiful night in the Louvre. Now, 9 years ago, when we went to see the Mona Lisa, I had an anxiety attack. I don't know how many of you have ever gone to see the Mona Lisa, but they shovel 5,000 people into a room. You look at the Mona Lisa from wherever you landed. You are crowded with people. And the Mona Lisa, I don't mean to disrespect the Mona Lisa, but it's a painting of a woman, my own opinion, who's it's not I don't find it to be this extraordinary painting. I'm standing there, the first time 9 years ago, I'm like, I'm having an anxiety attack to look at a painting I don't even like. It's fine. And this time, we walked into the room and it was almost empty. And I was like, oh, wow. I thought, maybe I'll like the Mona Lisa better if I'm not in the middle of an anxiety attack. And by the way, the guard who was guarding the Mona Lisa saw me having an anxiety attack in the middle of this thousands of people and literally it was like Moses, parted the Red Sea and said, come here. And I walked right out and he took me out the back door. Didn't need him this time. But I got to go right up to the Mona Lisa. And the upshot of that is, still not a fan. and we walked all over and we had the most beautiful time and we saw beautiful things and there was a beautiful winged victory that I just stood there and Nora was a big fan of angel wings, and it's the tattoo I'm planning on getting. So I got to go up to the winged victory and see this beautiful wing. Kevin's like, take a picture of it. Daniel can do that. Take that winged victory and put it on your arm. So I did. So I'm telling you now, I actually have that. Our sound man is an amazing tattoo artist. Next day, we get up. Now how many of here have heard of the yellow jackets? Okay. Yellow vests, yellow jackets. Those little bumblebees. The yellow vests. So I didn't know what was going on in France. And we got up and we went out of our hotel. We were at the West End, right at the Vendôme, right at the Louvre. And we took a right, and there were these lot of guns, a lot of people with guns, and a lot of military. And helmets, and it was really kind of scary, and they were all coming together, but they came together a little moments after we walked through where they were coming together, and no one else was allowed through. And we found ourselves to be almost the only people in an area that's usually as populated as Times Square. And I was like, given the guns and all the people that aren't here, we maybe are not in the right place. And we got to the Champs-Élysées, and we looked up, and there are 10,000 people in yellow jackets, yellow vests, and they're being held back by a barrage of guns. Now, we are close enough, of course, that we could walk up, not that we would have, but it was really fascinating how that felt, to be right in the middle of a revolution. And Donya's song, what do I think when I see that? What do I see when I see that? What do those soldiers see when they see a people rising up against whatever it is? What do we see? Do we see violence? Do we see anger? Do we see hostility? Do we see war? What do we see? And then I thought about all the other things we see in the world. What do we see? Where are we seeing it from? Why do I see what I see? They're called the forgotten middle class. That's what they call themselves, the forgotten middle class. And they're fighting against what they perceive to be a government that's not interested in their group of people. Gas prices, wages, all sorts of things. I see people speaking their word, speaking their hearts and souls. The government perhaps sees people who are destroying property. Because later on that day, or the next day rather, we went to the Champs-Élysées, and there were all of these store windows that were just crushed. And when we went up the Eiffel Tower, we saw all the burning. It was like Paris is burning, puffs of black everywhere. And we're on the top of the Eiffel Tower and looking at this, and it was like, wow. But is it burning in a destructive way? Yes, we can say that in the relative world. Or is it something that needs to come forward to burn away what needs to be fixed? There's many ways to look at it. And the reason why I bring this up today is not because of political reasons. It's for you to understand that you may be seeing things in your life that look a certain way to you, and you may be believing that that's what it is. And perhaps it's not. In many areas of your life. And what we're asked to do is step back and see it from the truth. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said this: learning lessons is a little like reaching maturity. You're not suddenly more happy, wealthy, or powerful, but you understand the world around you better, and you're at peace with yourself. Learning life's lessons is not about making your life perfect, but about seeing life as it was meant to be seen. But the question there has to be, how was it meant to be seen, and who meant it to be seen a specific way? So, I have a question for you today. How do you require your life to be seen? How do you require the life you're living to be seen by you? What do you require in your life? Do you require a lot of money? Do you require a lot of love? Do you require people to like you? Do you require you to like people? Do you require a job that fulfills you? Do you require passion in your life? What do you require? I love that word. Dr. Walker gave a long lecture once about how he went to a very rich person's house for breakfast at brunch, and they asked him if he required cream in his coffee. And he when he told the talk, it was a very funny talk, because he was like, I was so confused. Do I require cream for my coffee? I need cream for my coffee, because without the cream, I won't drink the coffee. So do I require? And he said it took him like 5 minutes to figure it out. And he finally said, I believe I require cream for my coffee. And the woman said to him, I use the word require to give you the understanding that there are many things you require in life that you aren't aware of. I love that story. So my question to you is, what do you require your life to look like? – And does it look like that right now? Now, I'm sure parts do, areas do, but what do you require? And even bigger question, how do you require you to be seen? Now, think about that question for a minute. How do you require you to be seen in life? This is about who you've become. What do you require the world to see when the world looks at you? And I'm not talking about how you look and any of that stuff. It's who you show up as. What do you require? Do you require of yourself to be someone? Do you require of yourself to be the best you could be? Do you require yourself to use the talents you came here with? Do you require yourself to succeed at a level that befits who you are? What do you require? Because you know what? Life is just moving on and on and on and on, and you either move with it or you're stuck. So what do you require? So in order for you to actually know these answers, you have to get out of the muck. You got to get out of the big crowds, and you got to step back far enough to see what you see. So I have a few slides to show you. So this slide here is a Monet painting. And we were in the Monet Museum, and I was standing in front of the Monet like here, and like you're the painting. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, wow, I really don't know what this is. I'm thinking it's a stream. It's a muddy stream with plants. Don't tell me, I know what it is now. And so I'm like, I just don't get it. So I stepped back a little further and was able to notice that it's actually a tree. And that the tree, what I was looking at was the trunk of the tree. Now, I'm in this museum, like so giddy. I'm like, oh my God. So if you're too close, you can't see anything. Like a Seurat painting who just uses dots for everything. If you're too close, all you see are a bunch of dots, which was the starring character in his musical. And when you back up, you see something different. So that's what I saw. Now, mind you, Kevin and Marcy and Al, they're over at this side looking at something, and I'm backing up and backing up. And then the next painting is when I finally got to them, and I was like, okay, turn around, just tell me what you see. And they went, a tree. I was like, oh, wait, come close. And then I realized they couldn't change what they saw because they already had an image of it in their head. So they couldn't go back and go close and go, now tell me what you see. Well, it's the trunk of the tree. I already saw it. That's who we are, unfortunately. And yet, fortunately, we can learn these lessons. We have so many images of what we think things are that even when we get up close and personal and we're being begged to see it differently, see it in the nuance, see the tiny little thing you might have missed, all we have is the image of what we think we saw, what we think we know. Focus. Focus. This whole month is about your willingness to see things differently, to focus on things in such a way that you allow the soul to speak to you, not just the eyes, which very often don't see exactly what you're supposed to see. So, my last little story is about a restaurant called Rigmarole. It was our last restaurant. It was chosen at the last minute. It was this restaurant that Al had been trying to get into all week, on wait lists all week. It's this very new, it's a year old. It's like you can't get a reservation, and we did. And it's just this, they do one seating. There's only 30 people. He's this top chef. It was amazing. When we got there, they come to your table. They talk to you through the whole meal, because they make a dinner just for you. It's not like what's on the menu. If you choose, they say, we want to know if you're adventurous. There were 5 people at our table, and all 4 of my companions, Al and Marcy, Mark Wyrick, and Kevin, they were all like, yes, we're adventurous. And Kevin turns to me. Kevin says, in front of everyone, he goes, we should definitely do the adventurous dinner where they just make us things to eat and we just eat them. And then Kevin says, although James may not have a good time with that. I love a challenge. And I was like, why would you say? He said, well, do you want to eat some of the stuff that's on here? I said, well, I don't know what it is, but you know what? When the waitress comes, let me speak for myself in bad French. And so the waitress came and she said, so are you guys adventurous? And every person, anything you're allergic to. And then the last question is, are you adventurous? She said, anything you're allergic to? I said, red onions. She goes, that's fine. Are you adventurous? I said, you know what? I am adventurous. I'm going to try anything you put in front of me. And Kevin's just like holding his breath. And so they bring out it was like 10 courses. And it was really quite amazing. It's called Paris by Mouth. That's their slogan. But one of the first things that came out, the first thing that came out was great. I'm not going to go through them all. But one thing that came out was put in front of me, and I really couldn't fathom the journey from the plate to my mouth. Nor could I fathom the journey from my mouth to here, because I had a feeling the journey would come back this way. So, and they're all like, oh my God, best thing I've ever eaten. And Kevin's like, you're not going to eat that, are you? I said, I am going to eat this. And you will suffer for it later. So I take it. Now what it was raw salmon cooked a certain way, but it was a little slimy, I found it to be. And so I ate the first one, and I chewed it, and I swallowed it. And I was like, you know what? That really wasn't bad. And I'm not eating any more of it. So I gave them the food. And then a few later, and I could feel a little bit of judgment from my husband, but I was like, nah, I'm not dealing with that. He got the rest of it, so good for him. Then something came out, and it was, I had to ask. I said, could you just tell me what this is? I was in Bulgaria once, and they gave me food to eat while I was on a film shoot, and told me not to ask what it was, and I ate it, and then they told me it was the scrotum of a bull, and I had a hard time with that. So please tell me what this is. And the person was like, well, it's not the scrotum of a bull. I said, good. What is it? And it was like hearts and livers and stuff all, right? She did the same thing I did. She went, oof. And they're all eating it and just having a good old time and chewing it up. And I said, I know who I am. Remember who you are. I know who I am. And I couldn't eat it. So the reason I'm saying this to you is part of knowing who you are is being adventurous, is being exciting, is taking risks. But it's also about listening to your inner self, really listening to your inner self. And I think way too often we try to fit in. We try to make other people around us happy. We try to show up in a way that, remember when I just asked you, how do you require the world to see you? Sometimes that makes us act a certain way because we want the world to see us this way. I want the world to see me as adventurous. And here's where this talk is going. I often stand up here and make fun of myself. I do, because I think there's a lot to make fun of in my life. But what's interesting is I'm smart. I can always find my way anywhere, even though I make fun of my directionally challenged self. I like that about me. And I realized on this trip that very often we are focused on things that don't serve us. And we allow ourselves to focus out here on perceptions, as Donia said, as opposed to in here on truth. So in this last week of focus, I would like to ask you to focus on that part of you that is so authentic, nothing could move you off of your authenticity. Can you do that? Really allow yourself to hear, what do you want? What do you feel? Who do you know yourself to be? And put that foot forward. Not who you should be, not who they think you should be, not who you're supposed to be, not who your mom, dad, aunt, uncle, husband, wife, anything thinks you should be. Who are you? Because the greatest question we're ever going to ask ourselves is, who am I? St. Augustine said, faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of this faith is to see what you believe. So I'm suggesting, believe what you do not see. but tap into what you feel about what you don't see. Because if you are willing to focus on what's authentically coming through you, you will never make a misstep. You just won't. And I believe that's how we need to conclude this month of focus, to really take all of that focus and put it right here. You are an individualized expression of God. You are God expressing itself as you. You are the power of the universe flowing itself through you and moving you through your life in any way you choose. We've been given volition. We get to decide how we want to live, who we want to live, who we want to be. So as you go through this month, I suggest that you take your focus about yourself and start living from it. Remember, knowledge is power. Self-knowledge is self-power. You want to know how powerful you are? Then start a love affair with yourself. Start courting you to come back out as the true, authentic self that you were born to be. There is nothing stopping any of us from being our highest, best, most successful, prosperous, healthy selves. This is what I know. This is what I came back to say. This is what I came back to live. Namaste.